Energy Airforce aimStrike Let's Play Update 12. This game is smart enough to let you train on any plane, including the ones you haven't unlocked yet, such as the F-35B Lightning II. Let's have some hovering practice, because I'm not doing that during the mission. But first, music. Welcome to the training map, another location unavailable in strike mode. It's quite spacious. We're here to see the special function of the F-35B. Are you ready? No, you're not. Energy Airforce was made in Japan, right? Aren't they supposed to censor those things? The weapon bay doors are open to make use of the ground effect, I suppose, just like the two long cannon pods on the Harrier. This looks silly. There is a bit of a side effect to having this hover feature. I can't use the LPI mode of the radar, even though the F-35 did inherit it from the F-22. If only there were an extra button on the controller or something. To save themselves from coding the transition between hover and level flight, the developers force you to use autopilot between them. For it to kick in, you need just a little bit of speed. Oh, look down there, at the end of the runway. There is a barrier. It's for stopping planes in an emergency. It doesn't work in the game, but it won't kill you if you run into it either. They also have net barriers on carriers, but they're stored away and set up only if they're needed. Now, there's another thing I wanted to show you here, and that is what happens if you land with your gear up. Before you ask, landing vertically with your gear up is an instant mission failure. But it plays out a bit different if you slide.
Altitude, altitude.
Shut up.
Altitude, altitude. Altitude, altitude. Altitude, altitude. Altitude, altitude.
Worth it. Much like the later variants of the Harrier's Pegasus engine, the power plant of the F-35 was designed by Rolls-Royce. It must have taken some really straight-faced Brits to make Americans pay billions for a flying droopy penis. I say, Cuthbert, what a delightful morning it is today. How's your work progressing on the Willy thruster? Excellent! Perhaps for the benefit of our friends across the pond, we should make some aesthetic changes. What if we made it shorter?
Altitude, altitude.
Alright, let's go on an actual mission.
Let's go over the details of your mission. Our ground forces plan a strike against an enemy weapons facility. The facility is heavily defended, so we need to soften it up before our ground forces go in. Gargoyle, hit any enemy ground forces that you can identify at the target point. Uncharted SAM sites are probably located on the facility's perimeter. Use extreme caution. You'll join up with Rapier Flight at Waypoint 1, and they'll fly cap for you at the target point. Following your strikes, you'll recover at the ground base at Dorgon. Your launch time is 15:30 hours, That's all, and good hunting.
Note the absence of anything on the right side of the body. Make a note of this for a few minutes later. Also, it's interesting how this plane splits left and right around the engine. Okay, this entire mission can be beaten by 1 or 2 cluster bombs. Unfortunately, external stores ruin our stealth, not that it matters much, as you'll see shortly. So we'll fly with whatever fits into our puny internal base. I grab an AMRAAM for the air raider mostly, and to show off another feature. But I'm very much not looking forward to meeting the enemy. Here are some highlights from my second attempt at the mission. Yes, I am locked onto by a flanker. It only took unlocking a stealth plane to finally get attacked by radar-guided missiles.
I need some help over here, stat!
Silence, contact, draft bullseye, 030, 115, 612, declare.
Rapier 1, your contact, bullseye 030, 15 miles, 12,000. Super flanker, hostile.
It's not all that super.
Copy hostile, progress. Rapier 1 pressing.
Damn it, I'm hit!
You could say that again. But a missile wasn't the reason I aborted this run, that was the reason I had to discard the first one. This is what happened later here.
I've got tone.
Ow! Yep, the engine is completely trashed. At 87% it would have taken me half an hour just to finish the mission. And that's not taking enemy planes into account.
Warning, warning. Warning, warning.
Do over.
Gargoyle 1, clear to launch.
Here we are, starting without the catapult. And now the front hatch opens and the rear nozzle tilts 45 degrees down. This is the Yak-38 takeoff position inherited by the Yak-41. I guess this makes our plane the strangest mass-produced Soviet design. The engine on this bird is kinda shit, especially for the distance we have to cover.
Strike, Gargoyle, checking in. We are airborne.
Roger, Strike. Switch to red crown at 10 miles. Preset 17.
Roger, Strike, preset 17 at 10 miles. Good day.
Can you see the thing sticking out on the right side, above the bay? That's the gun pod, which we don't have. But if you load something on your external stores, it will work as a gun with 200-something rounds. That's a Gao-22 4-barrel 25mm cannon, which we don't have at the moment because the fuel tank doesn't count as external stores for some reason. So, did you notice how loud this engine was when it went into hover? This game is prophetic. The reports of the F-35 being insanely loud started rolling in 5 years after its release. Some bases located near residential areas got a lot of flack for switching to the Lightning. Even the Navy is going to invest into new earmuffs. Of course, the manufacturer states that the F-35 is only a couple of decibels louder than the Super Hornet. It seems fine, until you remember that the Super Hornet has 2 engines, and this bird has only 1 in all variants. Yes, even this one, the forward lifting fan hooks up to the engine in the rear using a mechanical clutch. And thus they minimize the dead weight of equipment worthless in level flight. But there still is some.
Gargoyle, target area is heavily defended. Multiple AAA and SAM sites. Advise you stay high. Tracking also shows MBTs and APCs in the area. You are red and free.
5x5, Jackknife. We'll be careful.
You'll be dead. So, all 3 major F-35 variants, that is this one, the Air Force's F-35A and the catapult-launched F-35C, are similar in shape and size. But this variant has this fan crap it has to carry. What does it sacrifice to fit it? About 2 metric tons of fuel and more than 100 miles of range. Still, the fuel reserves of the F-35 are rather impressive. It was achieved by sticking small fuel cells all over the plane where they could find some spare room. They even have fuel cells surrounding the engine. It all looked very good on paper until the military took the F-35 for live fire testing and discovered that hitting it anywhere with pretty much any caliber leads to a ruptured fuel tank. Not really a problem if you can isolate or heal the leak, but on this plane fuel cells might explode. Oh, and in one of the tests fuel sprayed into the cockpit. In another, they scored a hit on hydraulics controlling vanes inside the intakes. The hydraulic liquid caught on fire and so did the fuel cell nearby. What followed was officially described as cascading structural failure. It blew the fuck up. Normally, it's not supposed to happen. What explodes inside fuel tanks is not the fuel itself, but its vapors mixed with air oxygen. To prevent the explosive mixture from forming, the free space inside the tanks is pumped with inert gases. The F-35 also does this, but using a new fancy-pants onboard inert gas generation system, which is somewhat unreliable and doesn't work in a dive apparently. Sounds like a fantastic feature for combat aircraft.
Well, it should be about time for a topside cover to show up.
They're coming. This mission is awfully long, just like the Wikipedia article on the F-35, and it doesn't even cover half the fuck-ups, even though it's mostly about them. Back to the fuel tanks. Thanks to them, the F-35 Lightning II is not allowed anywhere within 25 miles of a thunderstorm. If the two lightnings of different nature meet, one of them is going to become a fireball. In fact, it's not just a flying restriction. You can't park F-35s where they might be hit by lightning because the gas generation system can't even maintain inert fuel tanks for the required 12 hours after landing. So in case of a thunderstorm, ground crews have to get to the planes, drain the tanks and inert them with nitrogen. Oh, and the hub for all F-35 operations in the US is Eglin Air Base, where they've got the data center, the testing equipment and the training facilities. I believe it's also where they receive and check brand new units. Probably where they found that one F-35 that was shipped with defective stealth coating and a valve installed reversed, because that's the quality you expect for $100 million. Oh, look at the attitude indicator. They even had to turn that into a screen. Nothing is sacred. Oh, and this instrument panel is a touchscreen. I wonder what F-all stands for. Anyway, Eglin Air Force Base is located in Florida.
Closing on target position, Jackknife. Keep the sit rep.
Tortoise, advise enemy has MBTs and APCs in place. Their AAA is used horizontally as well.
Tortoise 1, copy.
It's funny they talk about enemy main battle tanks, and when we arrive it turns out they needed us to take out 4 anti-air guns that are hardcore enough to stop a tank assault. What was I? Oh, right. Out of all the states of the US of A, Florida is the leader in thunderstorm frequency.